So this call will be on our YouTube channel. So be a bit mindful of what you say because I don't have the time to edit. I don't have the time to edit right now. So this class will be on our YouTube channel. So if you want to go back to this, you can go back to this and learn. So once again, Prince will take us on this class and he will cover up the issues, the mistakes, the errors on the previous assignment being the Twilio assignment. So this will guide us to do the next assignment or probably the ongoing assignment being the played assignment. Okay, so if you don't have any questions on that, so Prince, you have the mic.
Hello guys, good evening everyone. I'm actually introduced. I'll be taking us through our class today. I hope you have your books and your pens. Yeah, so let's do it. So I'll be sharing my screen now. I'm going straight to it. So for those that are not here, they'll just join us when they get here or watch the replay. So I have just 13 slides for us today. I'm not teaching, I'm pointing out what you already did, because if you paid attention, we really weren't impressed with your last submission, right? This is the first time we actually got your work. And your work, when I mean your work, I'm talking about the first time you actually documented something, and it wasn't off to a good start. So we had to make some things clear, point out some stuff, and just so everything goes clearly. So for both of those that don't know me, my name is Prince Onyanuna. I'm a cloud native technical writer. I'm the co-lead of the Technical Writing Mentorship Program. Yeah, that's a bit about me. I document APIs and developer documentations as well. Okay, now I will call this the title. This is a not so technical guide to documenting APIs because it's not a class, as I said earlier. So we're just going through a few things, right? And you find them useful when you're working with README, especially because that's what the platform for this assignment. Please let me know if I talk too fast, right? I tend to do that sometimes. So let's get into it, right? So I have to start from the beginning here at defining what an API documentation is, because I had to reorient you. Because from the assignment I saw, it wasn't so clear that you all understand what an API documentation is. Okay, I will share a link to it, docs, for more proper definitions of terms. But for now, I define API documentation as a comprehensive guide that contains the A to Z about an API. So for everything you need to know about your API, you can find them in your API documentation, and that's what it is. Now, if you've been following our classes, this might confuse you a bit because we made mention that you don't tell stories in your API documentation, and that's right. But then there's a caveat. There are actually 5 different types of API documentations. Don't be scared. I learned that a few weeks ago as well, right? Now, the first type of those API documentations is what you call a reference guide, right? And that is what you've been doing, and that is the focus of this program. We're supposed to teach you how to make reference guides. And half of the time when people talk about API documentations, they are referring to reference guides. So if you understand what the term reference means, it means when you're trying to work, you're peeping, you're looking at, okay, this is how they do it, and you follow through. So that's not time for stories. That's a time for brief descriptions, straight to the point, helping the user get this, that, and done to your endpoint, right? Now you have recipes and examples. As the name implies, examples. This contains code snippets with specific guides on how to do certain things with your API. If you're familiar with the README UI, you realize that there's a part where there's actually a section for recipes and examples, but it's only accessible if you're using the pro version, okay? Now, the next type of API documentation you have is what you call your topical guides. Now, this is where you explain the why and the how of your API design. Why did you structure this? How is this structured? This is where storytelling comes in. This is where you can tell this is what's going on in your API. Okay, now you have support forums. I take it that most of you were actually disappointed with what Twilio had, because they really didn't do a good job and there was a lot of questions. And now we have a lot of questions coming up with Played, right? But if they have proper support forums around their API, they have a community around their API, you'll be able to troubleshoot. Okay, you ask the forum, okay, how does this work? And then the people that are using the APIs, the developers around it, right, can able to offer you good information on how to troubleshoot. Okay. And the next one, or the last one, is marketing pages. This is usually in form of landing pages. This drives traffic to your API, right? So people can get to use it and everything. But as I said, the focus of this course and the focus of this class is on reference guides. So I'll share the link to the doc so you can read about this more often. But I'll just like to point out that for major or bigger APIs, right, you find out that these 5 types of documents can be in one large API documentation, or they can be in separate places, right? It all boils down to the team and how large your API is. Okay. So we're going straight. The assignment breakdown. So I'll point out some points. I'll list out some points, some stuff we saw while we're doing the review, right? And I'll take note of a person's work. I'll call out someone's assignment. We'll go through it and I'll highlight what they did wrong, and I'll tell you how to do it better. So I hope that's fine. If that's fine by you, you can give a thumbs up in the chat. All right. Remember, if I'm talking too fast, let me know. Okay. Okay. I can't see you, but I hope you're doing the thumbs up. Okay. So my first point here is don't use too long endpoint descriptions, right? Now we'll go to the point where I started saying stuff like this page or this action, and that's wrong. Now let's define what an endpoint description is. As the name implies, it's a description about your endpoint, right? So seeing stuff like this endpoint does this, that, when you're doing da, is not needed, right? You're not trying to tell a story about that endpoint. And remember, it's a reference guide. That's what the name is. So let's check out what Richard did. Okay. So I still hope you can see my screen. Are we good? Can you see my screen? All right. Okay. So now this is what Richard did, right? So this endpoint is called read multiple accounts. Now he said, read the set of accounts belonging to accounts used to make the API request. This list includes that account along with any sub accounts belonging to it. This is a very confusing statement, first of all. Now he now starts when facing this right here is breaking the reader's focus. Do you understand? Because remember, it's a reference guide. I'm making reference to this while I'm trying to work. I don't need to know this right now. All I need to know is, what does the API do? How do I get to it? Now, README provides a proper way of structuring your API documentation. So it gives you a place where you can document your parameters. So all this here, all this is hard-coded. He created this table himself, right? Because in README, you have a box like this where you can either indicate if this is optional or required, if it's a string, the type, and all that, and actually include an example. So this is hard-coded. So this you can take as this is still part of the description, right? So we'll go back to how to properly use README, but your descriptions are not supposed to be this long. So the tip for this point is your description should be brief and concise. A short statement, a one-line sentence that says, this endpoint allows you to do this, full stop. I hope that's clear. Now, my next point, organization of content. Sorry, if you see your name in this guide, I spent time trying to understand your work, so I had to call you out. So my bad, sorry. Yeah, so organization of content, right? We also understood that organizing content was kind of difficult for most of you, right? Because in your reference guide, just because your reference guide doesn't mean they're not prerequisites. They're not certain pages that should come before your endpoints, right? Now, where you find yourself trying to tell a story in your endpoint page or the page where you're documenting your endpoints, right? It means that there is information that was supposed to be in one of the prerequisite pages that you brought down to your reference page. Okay. Now, What are these pages? They are called conceptual pages. They build the idea or a little background around your API. Now, the first of these pages is called your introduction, right? It gives a brief overview of what, how, and why. A brief overview. Sometimes you just find 2 sentences each. This page is kind of sometimes provides an image, a little image. This API does this, blah, 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 down, and that's it. The next page, you have your getting started page, right? This is a how-to guide. This takes a simple or most widely used endpoint of your APIs and takes the reader from A to Z on how to get to a 200 request, right? This page is very important because it builds confidence in that reader or in that user, sorry. So if the user can handle that getting started page, if they can make it 200 requests, if you know 200 means success, right? They can get a success response from that request. It means that they can do the same for all of them. If you can do for one, you can do for all, right? I hope that makes sense. So that's what your getting started page is for. So recap, introduction, it gives a little overview about your API. The next page is a how-to guide on one endpoint, the most widely used endpoint, right? Most times you find that it's a get request because it's easy. The easier it is, the better for the person. So they can get that confidence. Okay, this is quite easy. I can get to it, right? Now, the next page is authentication. What type of authentication am I using? What do I need to know about authentication, right? Most times people put rate limiting. If there's not too much information on rate limiting comes under authentication. Most times it's separate, okay? Now you have your glossary. When you find yourself adding links to external pages in your reference guide, it's wrong. If the user clicks on that link, they are out. Remember, it's a reference guide. They're making reference to it. Clicking out is taking them out of that place. So a glossary is where you add terms that may be foreign to that reader. I hope I'm not going too fast, okay? So then you have your status code and your error codes, which is very important because working with your APIs, people are bound to make mistakes. If you don't document the kind of errors they will see, it might get frustrating, right? Now let's check out what Temitope did. Okay, now this is what Temitope did, right? Now Temitope, sorry. Okay, now let's check out our organization of our content. So from what we discussed now, the conceptual pages, we're expecting that the first page you see is our introduction, right? So let's check this out. This is supposed to be the introduction page, but it's called the getting started with your API, right? This is supposed to include information about the API and stuff. This first sentence here started in 2008. Twilio is a leader in this. Is first of all not necessary because this is not the developer documentation, but it's not the product documentation. This is the API documentation. So this here is supposed to be information about the API, right? So this first sentence is not needed, right? I hope that's clear. So moving on, we said introduction, now getting started. There is no getting started here, okay? Now we have authentication. We have an authentication, it's right here, right? And then we have accessing your API key, it's right here. Now this is kind of confusing because API keys are a part of authentication. So why do we have 2 pages here that talk about authentication and API keys, right? I hope you can see this, okay? And then here we have an endpoint because this is a post request, right? I don't think we started documenting endpoints here. So this is not supposed to be here. I don't know how the Twilio API was structured, but this is not supposed to be here at this point. I don't know if this is supposed to be the getting started, but I don't think so, because getting started is an actual page that goes through the steps of actually getting a reply. So it doesn't take the structure of this kind of page. It takes the structure of a normal page. Okay. So moving forward now, if we're going to structure this properly, we're going to have an introduction, we're going to have a getting started, we're going to have an authentication page, right? Then we're going to have a glossary. There is no glossary here. So if I find terms I'm not familiar with, I just get confused. And then we have the status code. Now there's no status code here. So I hope that is clear. right? Now, that's just for the first part of it. Now, I want to talk about organization. Let us look forward. Let's look closer. This part here is labeled REST API accounts. Cool. Now, this is phone numbers. Is this still part of REST APIs? You get what I'm saying? This is not consistent, right? And then we have this section here that talks about secondary authentication. This entire organization right here is kind of confusing, right? So I hope you're gonna get what the point I'm trying to make. So if this was structured properly, this first section here should cover your conceptual pages. Then moving down, you have your endpoints, all broken down into various sections. I hope that is clear. Okay, so my tip here is conceptual pages come first, then your endpoints. Okay, let me check if I have any questions. Do we have questions? Okay, no questions. So we're good, right? Thumbs up if we're good. All right, thank you. Okay, let's go. So my next point is on image annotation. This is not an API documentation thing, right? But this is a technical writing thing. So the prerequisite for this course was that you're good with technical writing. Okay. Now, but we have to address this. So moving forward, you don't make this kind of mistakes. When you're creating images or adding images to a technical document, there are certain things you should and should not do. One of the things you should not do is include your personal information, right? So you have an image that has your initials or your name, or that should not be there, right? You should blur that out. You should take that out. Another thing is when you're adding stuff like arrows, boxes, or whatever, right? They should not block relevant information on that image, right? Now let's go to what Folarin did. Sorry. Let's go to what Folarin did here. Now, when I saw Folarin's authentication page, I was amazed. I was like, this is very good. I kept scrolling and scrolling and scrolling until I got here. I hope you can see this right here. Now, Salvism and I call this thing a dagger, not an arrow, because this is very big. This is a very shouting, red, big arrow that blocks this word right here. So if you're reading this right here, this can show as verified one numbers because it blocks out the term here. Okay. Now, moving forward, you see same arrows, which is very big. And then she's trying to blur out certain stuff. Now, I don't know what annotation tool you used, but Anotly, right? Anotly does a good job when it comes to annotations. It provides blur, right? In a second, you see what I mean by blur. So blur out stuff instead of using this red shouty line here. So this was very bad. When I saw it, I was like, this is not supposed to be here. So let's see what Mercy did. Let's see what Mercy did. Now, Mercy actually had the blur in place, which is very good. So this is what I'm talking about. If you want to hide stuff, use blur. It's neat, it's not shouty, it's clean. But then Mercy didn't use daggers, but she went and brought canes. These are too long. Why do you have these arrows stretching from one end of the page down to this place? I mean, an arrow that started from here to here would have passed your information clearly. And if you have something like this, you can might as well just use a box, a rectangle to circle it out. You know, so we should actually work on that. So when you're adding images, be careful because these things draw the attention to the reader, right? Because this is obvious, you can't miss it. When you come there, you're seeing it, and it's not very pretty to your eyes. I don't think anybody likes this. Okay, so my tip is make sure your images don't include personal information, and also please no daggers, just arrows, right? If you follow through, you know what I mean by that. Okay, so what should actually be on your reference page? So I've talked a bit about what should not be there, but what should be there. So let's take a look at what Gloria did, and I'll explain what should be there. Okay, first off, test buying a number. This is a very funny endpoint name. I don't know if this is what Twilio called it, but I think we would have done a better job at naming this thing, right? So this is funny, first of all. But I will list out the certain things that are supposed to be on this reference page right now. So the first thing is you're supposed to have the method type, the method request, right? Type of method request, we have the get request, post, put, delete. Okay, so this clearly is shown. Post is a post request. The endpoint you're actually working with. So you have the request type, the method type, the endpoint you're sending the request to, the endpoint description. This is very good. This description is very nice, right? And then you have your parameters. But then stop and see what I'm talking about. This is not the README's way of documenting parameters, right? README provides, look at this, path parameters. This is what they give you. Form data, this is your body parameter, most likely, right? Because this is a post request. So this one was handwritten. This was written by hand. She created the tables herself. Now, you added error codes inside your reference page, which is wrong. So remember what I was trying to say. When you find yourself trying to explain certain things, it must mean that you missed out on one of the conceptual pages. So something that was supposed to be in a conceptual page is now finding itself in a reference page. Wrong. So this information right here is supposed to be on the error and status code page. Okay, you're adding a hint here, you're adding all these magic inputs. This is all confusing, right? So what we're supposed to have on a standard reference page, you're having the method type, you're having the endpoints, you're having the endpoint description, you're having the parameters, you're having the request. Okay, this is the example request right here. And then you're having a response. There's no example response for this one, but you're having the response. You're having a mode of authentication. So this one is using I think it was using Bureau tokens, I guess. So you're using a username and a password. So if a user was supposed to try this out right now, all they would do is input their credentials right here, run this, click on try it, run this, and get the response right here. Okay, so I'll go again. You're supposed to have the method type, either a put, get, post, or delete method. You're supposed to have your endpoint description. You're supposed to have the endpoint itself. You're supposed to have a parameter, either a query parameter, a body parameter, or a path parameter. You're supposed to have example request and example response. Okay, I hope that is clear. So every other thing is not supposed to be a reference guide. Remember, it is a reference. I'll keep hammering on that. No stories, just straight to the point business. Right? So your reference guide, that's my tip, right? So Gloria, take notes. Now, should links be on your docs, right? Because I think there was scarcity in some documentation. So people were scared to link back to Twilio, right? In a real sense, if this were documenting for your company, right? You may not provide certain out links to take them out. However, there are certain pages that do need links, and these pages are supposed these pages that need links are in your conceptual pages. So you're talking about your overview, you're linking back to either the developer docs or the landing page of the product, right? For more information, because you're not going in depth in what the product does. Your goal for an API documentation is talking about the API itself, right? So yes, it needs links. Now let's check out what ADMO did. Now, this is not bad practice. This is actually good practice, right? These links, right, lead back to the Twilio documentation, right? So this is supposed to be, this is one of the leading pages, because this structure right here follows what Twilio has, right? But I don't understand why this is coming first here. I don't know. We're not talking about structure again. We understand what structure is supposed to be. So we know that the structure is bad, it's poor. However, I'm pointing to the fact that you should actually have links pointing back to certain things. Regardless of whatever the content of this page is, yes, you should have links, and the link should be on certain places. So this link should be found in your conceptual pages when you have your overview, you have your glossary. Most times your glossary terms might lead back to certain terms that might have been explained on your developer documentation. Do you get me? Okay, so you're having links in certain pages, right? So don't be scared to use links, but not on your reference page. Your reference page might confuse the reader and take the reader out. The reader wants to use your reference page to work on something on the API. So it's no time for linking out. Okay? All right. So yes, there should be links. Now, use of proper grammar. Now, at first, when I talked about endpoint description, I said most people use very funny things, and I was like, are we still talking about the endpoint in this case? You get. So we're gonna look at examples. So Edun, what did Edun do wrong? Now Edun said this page allows you to. Are we talking about the endpoint? Are we talking about the page? Remember, this is supposed to be an endpoint description. You're not talking about the page, you're talking about the endpoint. So this is wrong. This lingo here is wrong. Okay, now we come down to more information here. This is not even supposed to be here. This is too much. I think I have a question. I'll come into that. So this is a lot right here. All this is a lot of writing. You can see it yourself, right? Before we get into the path parameters itself, this is a lot. Okay. Now let's check out what Shitu did as well. Now, this is very funny. He said, this action will delete what action? Right? So what action are we making reference to? Are we talking about the endpoint or? Now, this endpoint is very scanty. This description is very scanty, as you can see. This just contains a description, right? Has a few references. There is no explanation to whatever these are, right? So I'm assuming that this does not take in any parameters because I can't see any, right? It just gives me 400 and 200 responses and that's it. Okay. So if I move forward, I think I have a question or someone raise their hand. I don't want to understand what the whole identity management asks. Okay. Is it part of the conceptual pages? Okay. Identity access management is a thing for Twilio. Okay, you can check out other documentations. You won't find that identity access management. I hope that's clear. So Angel asked, for those that watch recording of this call, what identity access management is. It's something that's peculiar to Twilio. So every API has certain things that are peculiar to them. But when you're working on documentation, there are certain things that should be there. You know, so when you talk about that identity and access management, I don't think it's supposed to be something that's found in your reference guide itself. It should go under either your topical guides or any of that. I think, Josh, I'll take your question and then I'll continue with the slide. Okay, Josh.
Okay, thank you so much. So, my question is regarding the reference page. What of if, for example, we need to explain some things in the reference page before the query parameter and the path parameter? Is it that they should not be at one of the conceptual pages? What of if some things are just peculiar, just related to that endpoint only? Where do we put them?
Okay, thank you. Now, when you have something peculiar to an endpoint, or when something is very important and you must say, if you check properly, it has to do with either you're trying to authenticate something or an error that the person might get. Now, when you're talking about errors should be documented where? Error and status page. When you're talking about authentication will be documented where? On your authentication page, right? Now, if there is any other thing that further needs explanation, it will go into maybe how or why the API was structured. And that falls under the outside the category of your reference guide. You get. The keys, do not add information that's going to take the user out of their journey or slow them down, because their role or their work is they're making reference to whatever they're trying to do. When the user is using your reference guide, they are working. Okay, so they are making reference and they are working. There is no time for that. I hope that is clear. So when you find yourself trying to explain, figure out this information I'm adding here has to fall under one of these. Okay, and add it there. even when it's peculiar to a particular kind of endpoint. I hope that is clear. Sandra, note down your question. I'll take that later. Let me finish the slide. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm almost done. So my tip for using proper grammar is the lingo for documenting your endpoint is simple. It goes, this endpoint allows you to continue. Then you finish it up. This endpoint allows you to. This endpoint allows you to. Right? This endpoint allows you to delete. This endpoint allows you to add. This endpoint allows you to retrieve. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So use the proper language so you don't get people confused by saying this action or this page or just starting something. Okay. Now to the good part. I told you I was almost done. Now, we just didn't spot bad things you did. We actually spotted some amazing things you did. Okay. And we're going to call out the people that did stuff that caught our eyes. Now, the first thing that stood out for us was the use of icons. Now, this was not something we mentioned, but your API reference guide, although it's a reference guide, it should at least have a little bit of color. It should stand out, right? I made reference to CoinGecko. I think Mercy dropped CoinGecko's doc. She talked about them, and I dropped it on the link. If you took time to look at CoinGecko, one thing they have is they added icons to each section they were talking about, which actually made it very attractive and fancy to look at, right? So let's check out what Mercy did. Now, if you can see Mercy's work right here, for every section she talked about, there was an icon. So authentication has this, API key has this, right? I think API key and authentication are the same thing. I don't know why these are separate, right? Now she has common errors, which has this endpoint overview, glossary, international, rate limiting, test credentials. You see what I'm talking about? This made the endpoints stand out, right? We're not even talking about the fact that she used a header here, which is actually very clean, right? I didn't see this a lot, but this is very good. So there should be certain things that you should or you can add to your endpoint to make it stand out. Another thing that stood out for us was the use of readmes features. A lot of you actually did this, but I also still noted a good use on Mercy's docs. So every platform, every documentation platform, be it Maplify, be it even when you're working with developer docs, whatever it is, they have components that make your documentation look nice and look wonderful. And one of them is callouts. This is when you add notes. I think Edun made reference to it. So she used this a lot. And this made her documentation very nice to see. So when something is bad, there's a danger for it. When there's a note, there's a warning. You're not just writing and writing, right? There are some things you call out in bold if they are very important so the reader can see and understand that that's actually important. So whenever you're using a platform, regardless of the platform, this is moving forward in your journey as a technical writer. Take note to always check out their features. And to access readmes features, all you have to do is put a / for those of you that don't know. So on a normal page, just add a / a drop down menu will appear and you can see all the features there. Headings, lists, tables, you have it all. Okay. Now, the last thing that stood out for us was a good status code page. Now, Josh did an amazing job here. Nobody actually documented the exact error codes you get when you get. Now, when you're talking about error codes, there are popular error codes. When you talk about 200, that's success. When you talk about 400, that's bad request. 401, these ones are normal, right? Everybody knows about this. Now, it's good to add this, right? But not all of them. It's a very long, exhaustive list. You can add a link to that. But adding the particular codes they get peculiar to that endpoint. Now, that is where use comes in. Now, you get the 21422 code when your phone number is unavailable. 21421 when the phone number is invalid. This is very useful information. So when the user is getting an error back to back, they know, okay, this is what is going on because they can see the code right here. It's properly documented. So shout out to Josh. This was amazing work. So moving forward, make sure you understand and get the status codes that are peculiar to the API you're working on. Are we clear? I hope we are clear. Now, and I've come to the last. That's all I have to say. Actually, I was tempted to show you about Open API specs, but I didn't want to go further. My whole gist today was y'all did good, but y'all can do better. Right? There's so much you can do, and this is just the beginning for you. So this right here was not a blueprint, or this was not a overview of what you can do for Twilio. This is an overview for what you can keep doing moving forward. So regardless of the next endpoint or the next platform you're using, we not just README, you might be using Matrify, whatever platform you're using next, make sure to follow the lay down principle you've gotten right here. The certain things you should put in your reference page, what kind of pages should be in your conceptual pages, if you should have links or not, the whole everything, right? So I will take your questions now. I hope you still have the questions. I hope you're not forgotten about the questions. I really love that about her work. Please, can you share the slide? I will share the slide, no problem. Do we have questions? Anybody? All right, Sandra.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the adding more information on the reference, is it the reference page that where you're documenting the endpoint? What about if that information is important for that endpoint, to make that endpoint work? Like, for example, like giving a tip or what somebody shouldn't do. I'm asking because I saw there's a document that Wisdom shared, and I think it's work he had done. I can't remember the page, but he had also put there like if something is important, if there's a tip. So, but just now you say that you're not supposed to have that information there, so it's a bit contradicting.
Okay. You can all right. Let me clarify that for you. Now, when I was talking to, this is almost the same question with Josh, right? Now, it's tempting, right, to have excess information or information outside what you're supposed to normally document with your API. But now, get this, a user is trying to work, right? Let's paint the scenario. You're trying to work, and let's say you find a link to an external documentation, or you find something else. It slows down your work pace, right? Now, if someone is following your API or your documentation from the beginning to the end, right, when they get the overview and they're able to know how to create or do that first, when they follow your how-to guide first, and they have gotten their first 200 requests, they're sure that they can actually do every single thing moving forward. And I also clarify that when you see yourself trying to document something extra, check it out. It's either something that has to do with an error they might get, right, or a means of authentication for that endpoint. So when you find yourself trying to explain further, is that information is not even peculiar to your reference guide itself, or you're trying to document an error they might get. And when you talk about errors, they're not supposed to be on that page. Errors are supposed to be outside that page, right? Now, if you talk about a tip, what can a tip be? Can you give me an instance? Because if you're adding a tip, let's say when you're doing this, do this. Take, for example, if you have a page that has a parameter that is required, and you specifically say required on the description of the parameter, I don't think you're adding a tip to make it required. It's already stayed there. This endpoint, without adding it here, it won't work. There's no tip right there, right? So your endpoint page, no matter how strict it might look, it contains every information you need for that endpoint to work. If it's optional, you don't document it as optional. If it's required, it clearly showed required. So I'm not sure what a tip might be on that page. If you have an example the person is supposed to make for a particular request, you document it in that request. Because sorry, let me open someone's assignment right here. This is very good. Take, for example, this page. Now, you see this box right here. This is supposed to be an example. So if you're having an example right here, it's supposed to be here, right? If this was required, it's supposed to be indicated required here, right? This shows that this is a string. So this alone is enough information for you to hit and get your request correctly. Okay, so when you find yourself being tempted, be sure to know what you're trying to document, what it is. And then remember, we have the 5 types of API documentation. So be sure that you're not adding information that's supposed to be somewhere else in your topical guide or your example and trying to put it in your reference guide. Right. So just to be clear. So
I can give an example.
Okay.
Like when we were on the Tulia docs, we were using different authentication credentials for the test when we were doing the testing the endpoints, the testing credentials part, and we were also using different now the live credentials for the account section. So like if we don't share that information, then somebody might come there and try using alternate the credentials, and then they won't be getting anything. So I was just wondering if that kind of information is important enough to put it there. Or
Yeah. Thank you. Now you see that you answered your question yourself. What did we talk? What did you mention just now? You talked about authentication. That information regards to authentication, right? Now, when you're now structuring your document, you structure it in a way where those that are using live, you're indicating it on your authentication page that this section of APIs use live endpoint, while these sections, do you understand? Right? So if that question or if that point is related to authentication, it falls under the authentication page. It now falls to you to document your endpoint in a way that they understand that these endpoints here all use this test and these endpoints here all use the live credentials, right? And you indicate it on that page. So authentication page doesn't just limit you to say, this is how you authenticate using API. You indicate these sections now use live and these sections use this. This is, I hope that's clear. I hope that is clear.
yeah, that's clear.
Yes. So you get the kind of information you're trying to document and figure out the section is supposed to fall in that under. Sorry. Tell me, your hands are up. Your hands
Hi,
up.
Prince. Thank you so much for the explanation. It's really did a lot. I have a number of questions that I'll just try to maybe if you can flow with it. So
Okay.
now based on this information now, and we're trying to pick it up with our next assignment, which is the played API. Now,
Yep.
one of the things I noticed with the played API is that there are a number of endpoints that would require consistently the client ID, the secret keys, and the access token. Now, this has already been defined in the authentication part because you definitely need it. But one of the things I noticed was that they always would define it over and over again in the request body in each and every one of the endpoints. So, do we keep defining it over and over in every link, in every endpoint? That's my first question. Will you answer that, or I should mention
Yes.
everything?
Yes. Straight up. Yes, you do. As far as that
Okay.
endpoint requires it, even if it's all of them, you put it there. Yep.
Okay, so that means that because there are also some request fields that are in Played API that they are up to like 10. And okay, so we're trying to shorten it into like lesser statements, like one statement at least. So, but definitely we still have to define each and every one of the requests, but because it's definitely going to be long before you see the body and the example code, since we're using Postman. I don't know if you get my point. We still have to define everything there, right?
When you say define, are you adding like a description for all the requests?
The request. Yes,
Yes.
yes, I mean
Yes.
description.
Yes, you
Okay.
have to.
So okay, so my third question is one of the challenges I faced was now maybe in let's say I am documenting balance endpoints. And balance endpoints requires I'm asking this question because of your talk about the links. And balance endpoints requires an ID that is not yet in balance. Sorry, it requires an ID. Let me give an example. It requires maybe an account ID, and balance is still at the top. Account ID is still at the bottom based on the structure. Is it possible? And let's assume that the structure is right the way it is, because I think it was one of them was under sandbox and sandbox was under transfer. So let's assume, is it right to link back to that specific place where in the description body, besides just explaining, okay, after saying, okay, the originator account ID does this, full stop. But to get it, is it right and accurate to link it to the endpoint that it is in? I don't know if you get my question.
Okay.
The,
I'm a
the
bit lost,
section.
but let's walk it down together. Now, who created the structure for this the documentation? Was it Plead? Plead, you're talking about how Plead has it structured, right?
Yes.
You do realize that your assignment is to make the docs better, right?
Yes.
Now, following this problem you mentioned now, that there is something that has to come before something, do you think that it should be that way?
And shouldn't.
It shouldn't, right? So look at their structure, right? Is there a
Okay.
reason why that documentation is actually before the one that needs it? Or is there a reason why the other one's above it? If there is not,
Okay.
then it should all fall down, right? If there is okay, I think sorry, how that happened. If there is an endpoint that needs to come before another one, it should come before another one, right? Since you're working on it right now, you have the ability to move things around and organize stuff properly. So moving forward, when you're working in a company, you're not going to have something that's supposed to come before something behind, and then you're linking back. I hope that makes sense to you. So you have the
Yes.
power right now to structure something better. So please look outside what these platforms have, because I see when I talk about the person that had the the identity and access management page, I wasn't sure why they had that. If you're not sure why that page is there, why are you putting it? You're in the role of working right now, and this is supposed to build confidence. So when you're talking to managers, when you're talking to people that own products, when you're talking to a team, you're supposed to speak with confidence. Okay, this endpoint should come before this. Now, you talked about documenting all the adding descriptions for every type of request. If I show you, I don't think I have permission to show you most of the works I've done for OpenAPI specs, because I don't do manual working manually on PaidMe. It's stressful. What you're doing now is stressful. But when you're working with an API, OpenAPI spec, you're documenting every single thing. And I talked about why that might look difficult for you is because Plaid made it potentially difficult for you by adding stories instead of brief descriptions about your endpoints. Do you understand? Those descriptions are so broad that you have to read it, and this is very bad if it's supposed to be a reference guide. Okay, so your job, I was sad when I heard that there was an extension, but do a clean job of reworking that documentation to the point that every request has brief descriptions. You get me? So we're looking at this page right here. This name now, this is a friendly name. This, first of all, is a very bad description. I don't understand the description, but your description is supposed to be brief. I don't know what this is, right? But this is supposed to be a description, but it's supposed to be brief and concise. It's supposed to make sense for pidgin English, right? So this is supposed to make sense, right? Brief and short. So every single description should be there, brief and short. Find a way. I don't know how you're going to do it, but find a way. I'm not going to give you tips on how to do it, but just find a way, right? And make those descriptions there. It's going to help. It's gonna help you, right? And it's going to help them if they get to adopt your work, because people like good stuff. So if your stuff is good enough, they might take it, and they will take it. Just pitch well, right? So do we have
Okay.
any other?
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So do we have any other questions? Joshua. All right, let's go.
Okay. The back to what Sandra was saying, there
Yeah.
was a tip. There was a tip she actually was talking about, and I just remembered there was one work that Wisdom did on Readme in the video. In the video, yeah. So so that tip, there was a table for that endpoint. So and you draw the table for the endpoint only. And I noticed that because I actually went through the doors. I actually noticed that when I went to another endpoint, I did not see that table. The table was just only meant for that docs only. I believe that was the tips Sandra was referring to, something like that, or an example of that.
Okay. So there was an endpoint description that contained a table. What did the table contain? Sorry.
The table contains like some numbers, like numbers, and it's just like that trillion, like those full numbers that you
Okay.
have to use, something like that. Yeah, exactly. So
So
that's what the table contains.
it was not a parameter, it was just excess or information outside the reference.
It was those information, those tables were were what we use as a parameter.
Yeah, so there were the examples to use for the options. Let me say, sorry, there were options to impute in a parameter if the user was going to use it.
Exactly, sir.
Okay. I will say I will not call that a tip. I will call that it was let's say that's the formatting issue, right? Now I will use Open API a lot because I have more experience there. When you're using Open API to document stuff, there's something called enum. It stands for enumeration. Now, it allows you to add different values that are supposed to be options for an endpoint. So if you have enum on this page, if you click here, a drop down will appear here just like this. Let's say you click on this, a drop down will appear, and you see different values you can click as options that will go with this friendly name you get. So probably that was a README has the enum option clean. So if it has it on the UI as well, clean. So I think that was a formatting error. So we learn every day, So I hope that I'm just clearing that out for you. Who raised their hand first? Gloria.
I'm coming,
Okay,
sir.
sorry, Josh.
Okay, I'm coming. Let me understand this thing fully. So
Yeah.
is it that in a particular endpoint, like for example, now just like we have the Twilio, back to Twilio again, that test buying a number or test making a phone call. Yeah, there were some numbers that they said that we should use, some magic numbers. That was what they called it. Yeah, those magic numbers, should they fall under the endpoints we are using them, like buying a phone number, sending a message, or we should put them under the conceptual pages?
Okay, now let's walk through this together. We're here, right? This is the page. This is the page you're talking about, Abby. Making a call, test making a call.
No, go to buying a number because that's where they gave magic number, the test credentials.
Did you document this? Let me check your work. Sorry, this is the link I'll show you. Did you document this? Where is it?
Yeah, go to test credentials. Test buying a number.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they had all these magic numbers.
Okay. So if I'm using your endpoint, if I'm using your reference page to work now, what am I supposed to do with this number?
Okay, these numbers are numbers that gives you information on when you try them. Okay, now that this is the results, that this is what you will get. You get, like for example now, because for the test credential they gave some numbers that you can use to test. So when you try this number, this is the description was this this is the response you will get. If you try this number, this is the response you will get.
Okay,
you get something
so
like that.
I'm supposed to, if I try this number now, Josh, if I take this number and I put this number here, if I'm trying to test your API, I put this number here, right? The result I will get is this number is unavailable, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, this falls under these things here, these three things here are supposed to be here as examples right here. Do you understand?
Okay.
Now, this information here, you said is this tests, right? This is test. You're testing credentials, Abby?
Yes, sir.
What kind of credentials are you testing?
No, those values, those the values are the phone number. Those description, for example, now this phone number is unavailable, this phone number is invalid. Those are the response you get when you try this particular number.
Yeah,
those are the response you get. For example, exactly. Okay.
All I'm saying is, what credentials are you testing now? This is to test buying a number using the test credentials. Are these these numbers are the test credentials? Is this what you're trying to test? Because I'm asking you these questions, right? Not to scare you, but I'm asking you in a real world situation. If I come to this page and I'm trying to work with this API, right? I'm asking, what am I doing with this number? Because my job on a reference page is what I'm seeing. Am I using it to get my endpoint? Is it leading me somewhere? If it's not, take it out. If it's not, I'm not supposed to see it. It distracts my focus. Do you understand? That's why I'm clearly asking you why this is.
Yes.
Do you get it? Now, if you were to leave this as examples, if you wanted to use this, I'm going to use an open API reference because your capstone project is going to be on open API because that's when you know you're not a big boy or a big girl with documenting APIs, when you can do it there, because that allows you to replicate your work along any platform. But if you're going to have multiple, if you have one endpoint, and you have multiple examples under that endpoint, right? You can do that. I wrote an article about that a few weeks ago. I will share the link as well. Now, when you have an endpoint and you have different values as you can use as examples, you can document them here under request example. So this place you have string. Once you're changing it, you can have 3 examples. Once you change it, this number here will change. Do you understand? And when this number changes, you can have a description for each of those parameters. Do you get? So this description you're having here now will not be here as you're changing it. I hope that is clear.
Yes. Now I get. We use the enum parameter.
This one is not even using enum at this point. This one you're having different examples, which makes it easier for the user if they're using your work. So they're coming here. Okay, this example, if I'm using this number, this is what I will get. I'll come here. Okay, let's say I will name this unavailable, right? This example will be called unavailable. So when I do that, when I click here, the response I'm getting here is unavailable. The next one, invalid. When I click here, the invalid number will show here, and the response I will get here is invalid. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you're documenting your mind, sorry, Chisa. So when you're documenting, your mind should always be at what is my user? What you're going to think of the user, right? You're supposed to think of the user. So I hope that's clear. So moving forward.
And also, how can that be done using README? You said under the example, by the time somebody click on it, there's different drop down will come out. We have the invalid, we have the unavailable. How can that be done using README? Using one
request, it's a request example. So you just have multiple request examples, right? So when you're adding request example, you have one, you add another one, you add another one, you give it a name. Okay.
Wow. Thank you, sir.
Yep. You're welcome. Gloria.
My question is about the response description you mentioned earlier. In that plate documentation, one thing I noticed about their description is that they include unnecessary information about like the responses. So I'm now confused that can I include, because those information too are kind of necessary, but they are in the wrong place. So can I include those information inside the glossary section?
Okay, so let's break it down. Now, when let's use this for example, right? If I can share with my work. If we have this right here, this has a description. The description is going to be brief. Origin, very brief, right? Goes blah 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 blah. One liner, sometimes 2 if it's very important, but one liners. Once you read that thing they have there on played, right? And you figure out that this information here is excess, then you now understand, okay, what are they trying to talk about? When you read clearly, you might find out that this has to do with how they structure their API. And now that now falls out of a reference guide. Because the plain API is structured in a way that it will confuse you if you're new there. Because you have no business reading all those things if your job is to come there and execute. You understand me? So you move any information that is supposed to be relevant to the relevant types of API documentations we have. Right now, in this work or this assignment you've been given, you may not have the luxury of time to create the different 5 types, or you may not even create the 5, right? All your job here is to create this reference guide. So from all the things that are documenting there about the response, you take out the particular important thing about the description and add it there. This is a blah blah blah, full stop. Do you understand? When they pay you, you do more. You create the topical guide and you do the rest for them. So I hope that makes sense. It's not your fault. They did a very bad job. I think that's Richard.
I'm sorry, I still have one more question.
Okay, sorry, Richard. Yeah.
Concerning the glossary section, when I
Yeah.
checked online, checked some API documentation, I noticed that most of their definition about those terms are kind of brief. So my question is that the glossary section, is this supposed to be brief, or we can elaborate and explain about what it is doing, or we have to maintain that brief explanation? Like, I'm talking about the
Yes.
glossary section now.
The glossary section is actually still a very brief section. I don't think most of you have written a glossary section before, but this is a glossary section right here. I think she did a good job as well. Yep. So this is a glossary section. MMS might be a foreign term to some people. So what she said, multimedia messaging system, a protocol for sending messages that include multimedia, simple and short. Okay. So this is the kind of information that you find in a glossary system. Words that will be in your API that might be foreign to a new user. So the glossary section is actually a brief section as well. Right? And the glossary section contains links to high-level pages. When I mean high-level pages, when you talk about high-level pages, you're talking about pages like Wikipedia. So when I create glossary sections, I link to prominent pages that are from prominent sources. So we have when you're talking about APIs, when you think about APIs, you think Postman. So if I'm writing something that concerns APIs authentication and I see an article, I see a page, I make a reference to something like Postman, I know that the information is valid. You're not linking them to one random blog. You're linking them to high quality information, right? So yes, please. Your glossary is a brief definition as well. Yep. Richard.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're
So, first off, I wanted to about because the major aim of this thing, from what you've explained so far, is try as much as possible to be direct and also be instructive, like something that is very informative and direct at the same time. So, first off, can something be too direct? Can a description on an endpoint be documented in a way that is too direct? Is it possible? Like there is, I don't know if you get my question. Is it possible?
let's take an example. I'm looking at something right now. Do you think this definition is too direct? Dial, initiate a phone call to a specific number. Do you think it's too direct, or it's just straight to the point?
This is straight to the point.
Yeah. So when you say something is too direct, is either poorly explained or not even explained properly at all. It's the same thing. You just did a bad job at explaining it, right? So this is a straight to the point, accurate information to initiate a phone call to a specified number, full stop, right? So when you say something is too direct, it's actually most times poorly explained. So yeah.
Okay, I get it now. Then you were saying something about because this has to be documenting parameters and the body request and all that. And there is this aspect where, like in Philo now, some of the definition of the parameters, they had a lot of origin which they added to it. And the example now, you create maybe a markdown table for those things. Is there a necessity? Is it necessary for you to also include the descriptions in the parameter, the one that is provided by README? Or if that table now that you have already, once there's a description there, you can just go ahead to just put the parameters and not add the descriptions that comes with the body. Don't know if you get me.
Okay. Did you do something like that in your work? Can we check your work?
Yes, I did.
Do you
Just
remember
any
what and which one?
go to the big go to go to account,
Okay, I've
search account,
seen
something like
multiple
this.
accounts. Yep.
Yeah. So
Um,
then,
are we seeing something? See something right here, everyone. Listen up. README provides this for documenting your parameters. Either it's a body request, either it's a part parameter. It provides these boxes, right? Which is intuitive with their UI. Now, you created a table, right? Which is static. If you had multiple examples, how would you do that on this table? I don't think you can. But README provides this switch option for you. Hence, there, in my opinion, which is the opinion, this is not supposed to be here when you have this. You get now this here friendly name type string is already indicated here. This is clean string. It is a string. If it's required or not, it will be clearly shown here in red. Required. If it's optional, then there will be nothing on it, right? You know that you necessarily might not need it. But if it's required, you see it there. The description also will be here, somewhere under here by the side. An example of it, which I don't know what this is, but an example of this will now show here in this box. If there's an example to this thing, it will show in this place here. So I don't think you should have created this table. This is where you would have added your information. The information is clearly shown here. So I don't know. This is quite redundant. Now makes this not make any sense. I
yeah,
hope you're with me, Richard.
I just saw that now. Yeah, I just saw that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you said something about external links, because
Yeah.
there is something, I don't know, there is, when going through the whole Twilio docs, is that there are some links, especially when it comes to there are some links you just click and it's as if it's taking you to a totally different uh, page or document or something that is not related to the API. You get. And you also made mention of putting links that could, external link, particularly in your close rates and all that. So now, does it mean that, like, in those documentation of those endpoints, you should not put any link, you should not reference any of those things to avoid user distraction? Because, like, I don't really get that aspect. I don't get that point you were trying to make there.
Okay. Now, let's say you are the one using this API, right? And you come here. This is a link. I just covered this. Now, imagine I'm reading this and I come here. I click this thing. Hopefully, this link works, right? Whenever this link decides to load. Now, imagine this link takes me off or to whatever or wherever it takes me to, and I'm off the screen forever and I'm gone, right? People have short attention span. I hope we know that. So when you have something that's taking them out of your documentation, they might don't even come back again for that day. When they come back, they might even forget why they left in the first place and come back and click the link again and to take them out again. Do you understand? Hence the reason why it's suggested that your links remain on those conceptual pages, because half of the time people will skip your glossary page. It's only when they see a term that they don't understand, they will go and check it. Glossary is like dictionary. You know, they read you don't read your dictionary. You don't read your dictionary. You only make reference to your dictionary when you find a word you don't understand. Okay? So a glossary is a dictionary API. I hope that makes sense to you. So adding those links now, those links should be in your glossary. So at that point, they're not working when they're reading your glossary. Most times they're not even working. They're just maybe checking some certain things. You get. Do you understand? Sorry. Yes, I'm trying to speak English.
I understand.
Yes.
Now, but what if, for example, I feel like, oh, maybe this thing is very important to understanding the whole API, but you don't need to add it. Can you, like, are there written on stones that in the maybe introductory sections of or getting started sections of the API reference, there are some things that are expected? Can you, like, add extra to it, which you mentioned it, for example, now this identity management, you were saying something about you not even knowing the point, the whole importance of the whole thing. And now, is there, when should you add something like that? Because I've not seen a lot of API docs, almost all the getting started pages and introduction, and almost all of them almost look alike, or those early beginning parts of the API reference. So when should you when should you create maybe a totally different nomenclature for a document in those beginning parts?
something like identity and access management, right? Talk about
Yeah.
like identity and
Yeah.
access management. When you have pages like that don't follow the conventional structure of how APIs look in general, you have to figure out what exactly that page is trying to document. Now, identity and access management has to do with access to certain things, right? Who has access to what and what they have access to. Do you understand? Now, that information, if it's not
Yes.
peculiar to authenticating with your API, right, should not be on your reference page. Because what is it doing there? If it doesn't help you at that point in getting to the point of running your endpoints, it should not be on that page, right? Now it can be moved to the topical guides or one other part of most likely the topical guides, right? Yes, because it explains why you structured your API and why you designed your API in such a way. So that should be where you put your identity and access management. Do you understand? So that should not be there. So if you're trying to recreate an API, now
Yeah, I
you
understand.
now
I
and you
understand.
see
I
that,
just maybe I just get to see the.
sorry.
Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah, I was saying if you're documenting your API and you're documenting an API from a page, just like this assignment you had. Now it's your job to read and see what exactly is the content of that API, right? And know, okay, this is concerning authentication, or this is concerning this, and figure out where to place it in. Now you made mention of most of the examples you see all follow a particular pattern. Yes, because they know that we don't want to take people out of our box, so we have to structure it this way or that way. So I hope that is clear, right?
I understand it now better. I just have to
Okay.
okay, the topical guides and the whole API reference just makes sense. I just have one more
Okay.
question, please. Because
Okay.
there's something we need to have this morning, some wisdom. We were saying something about some things that are supposed to be in developer guides, which are supposed to be in API, blah blah blah. So and now can you make a clear distinction on what the difference between the developer docs and the API docs?
Okay, difference between the developer docs and API docs. How will I put this? I'm
Or
trying to
what
see that
or what
it's
it's
almost
supposed to be?
it's okay. Let me explain. Now, your developer docs, right, and your API docs are two distinct things, because your API docs talks about your API. Your developer docs do not talk about your API. They talk about the products. They talk about features of the products. They talk about just general how to use the product, but not the API. Do you understand? The API is not the product. You understand? The API is a means of communicating with different endpoints of that product. So a developer docs is different from an API docs. API docs talks about the API itself, and developer docs goes to talk about the features of the product and the architecture and all that. I hope that's clear.
I will try to make it clear.
Yes, look for examples, right? You should look for examples. There are products that have developer docs and API documentations. So when you look at them, you clearly see the distinctions. They don't have the same content, right? The API docs clearly just talks about the API reference guide, just go straight to the point and talk about the API, and the developer docs talks about you will find information like architecture, you find information like features, all in your developer docs. You will not find any of those things in your API reference guide. Yeah, so
That
yep.
means to say that developer docs is more like technical writing.
Okay. Richard, I think I have to do a bit of background for you, right? Everything we are doing is technical writing. Even API documentation is technical writing. You get, yeah? Everything is technical writing.
No,
I
like
know different types
the
of
reason why I'm
technical.
saying this thing is no,
Yeah.
the reason why I'm saying this thing now is because like I got confused at some point. Like because it's as if like the whole things were like jumbled together. mentally, because like the interswitch between try to switch between developer docs and you find this in API docs and all that. So I was like, I thought I knew what this means, but I just needed a clarification for that. So that was why. But I think I'm getting a hang of it.
Yeah. Look at examples. Look at examples. Hopefully, you get to join the next cohort next year. Next year we'll go on developer documentation and you get to witness it. Now you already know what you're getting to know what API documentation is, and then you get to see what developer documentation is. They are totally different. When you see them, you'll know. Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, Richard. Olubisi, when is the cohort? I'm not sure. We've not decided yet, but we'll let you know. Olubisi, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you, Prince, for the feedbacks and everything. So my question is on the links. For instance, now when you go to that Plate API, please can you go there so I don't know if you have it open.
Let me see. Hopefully it opens. Okay. Yep. Played. Where are we
Okay.
going to?
Help me click on the no the overview. Okay. What I want to ask now is this API now we are talking about links. All these links, when you click on this Play dashboard, they have so many. When you scroll, you see so many links there. But you said we should not be using links. This type of links now, is it advisable to use, or we should not even use any of this?
You see that people will be in trouble. People should watch. People should go watch the feedback. People should go watch this thing from the beginning. Oh, I don't say don't use link. Oh, I say put link in conceptual pages. Every time to speak PG, make that put link for conceptual page. Oh, please. See this link here. See this link here. This link is taking you to their dashboard. If you hear what I said add links to the product documentation or the products. This is not their product. This is their product, the Play dashboard, right? So this overview here has their links. Okay, so please add links. Where you are not adding link is your reference page, because people have low attention span. Adding a link can take them out of your reference and they are gone. This is the overview page, aka introduction page. Are we clear?
Okay,
Thank
understood.
you. Thank you. all right. Okay, do we have any other questions? Maybe the reference page. Maybe the reference page is the endpoint testing. Joshua, what are you saying? I confused you. What is that? Maybe the reference page is endpoint.
What I'm trying to say is this: should be those reference page you actually talked about. Those reference page, are they not the endpoints themselves? So that I will know. So that I say
Yes. Sorry. Before I go speak grammar. Yes. They
okay,
are.
sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. Reference pages. The reference pages, the endpoints, not the same thing. Sorry. I beg. I don't get you confused. Okay, if we don't have any other questions, my time is up, and I hope you're able to learn something. I'm glad. Okay, Shitu, you know what? Let me go. Oh, yeah, ask a question.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. So, I want to clarify. You talked about structure. So, the for this play API and for even the tool also, when they group similar endpoints based on the function, auth, balance, identity. So, is that also the right way you are supposed to do it, or is there any
Okay,
other?
did you say
Yeah.
you asked about function, what the API is, what they do, right?
Yeah, what the endpoint does. Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at this. Let's look at this right now. Most times when people structure their endpoint, as you said, right, they structure it based on something. Now, you mentioned function right now. This function, this auth here contains all the endpoints that have to do with authentication, right? and that's why they are
Yeah.
grouped under here. Now, when I was referring to Temitope and ordering your endpoints, is most times when you see that people don't even know the endpoint you're documenting, just document it anyhow. It's in your job to document it the right way. Now, these people have a very good way of organizing their work, right? It's now which one should come first. Now, imagine having this authentication endpoints here under virtual accounts when you need something from this authentication endpoint under virtual accounts. How does that make sense to you, Shitu? It wouldn't really. It wouldn't. So organizing it under authentication, all the endpoints under authentication should fall under here, but which one comes first? Then you order it according to whatever you're supposed to get from this one. This one is supposed to bring, you cannot find authentication under any of all these other things. Point blank, right? So that's the point here. So once you figure out that, okay, this structuring is good, then you now figure out, okay, because you're going to test it when you're working. Yeah, so okay, oh, this one is supposed to come before this one. I'm supposed to have signal before I get identity. Okay, then you structure it that way so that if the person is following your endpoint from top to bottom, or whatever the way they are following it, they know that, okay, this is what I will do before I get this. I hope that is clear.
Yeah, that's clear. Also, I have another question. For like this,
where did people get all this question from? I just had 13 slides. All right, keep going. Gloria. Okay. All right, keep going. Sorry.
Okay, like this, although it's peculiar to just this API, like I think it's even the same thing for Twilio. To like, they have like specific endpoints to like that you have to like do before you can get your public token, and you need that token to like do any other significant endpoint. Like if you don't have the token, so I'm not thinking like, is that, can we call that token? Can we call that? Can we like, are we going to like do it in, because here also in fact it's not even in the endpoint here, although it's still an endpoint too, but it's not documented in this endpoint here, and it's also not documented in their authentication, it was just put under, I think that's it, that processor / token / create is also an endpoint too. But if you not do it, you cannot get the public token, and even if you get the public token, you have to convert it to an access token. If you don't have the access token, you cannot run any other endpoint. So I'm not thinking like, is that supposed to be in authentication section, or is it even supposed to just like have a section on its own because it's still categorically an endpoint? Or like, how are we going to like undo that?
Okay, is it an endpoint?
Do you get what I'm saying? I said, eh?
Okay,
I didn't get you.
let me ask the question. Is it an endpoint? Is it an endpoint?
Yes, it is an endpoint. Yes.
Whatever we're trying to, what you're asking right now, it's an endpoint, right?
Yes.
You make a request to it.
Yes.
So you document it first. I'm not going to tell you this is like cheating. I gave you this just now. I said you cannot have authentication under any of this because most likely you're going to use one of the information here to continue any of this. Do you understand me? So since it's an endpoint, you document it as an endpoint, but it comes first. Okay.
Before any of this, Abby. Okay.
Yes. If it's necessarily not a means of authentication, that is, it doesn't have anything to do with getting API key or bearer token or OAuth or whatever, they don't document it as an authentication. You document it as what it is, an endpoint. Okay?
Because what I'm even asking again is because even in the document, it says something about like, look at it. They said create a token for the auth. You can even see the processor / token / create. It says create a token for using auth with a processing partner. And also it specifies again in this doc that why I even said is an authentication stuff, because it says that you can either use it in the body or you can use it in the header, and most likely stuff that use in the header are authentication. So that's why I was thinking like, if it's an authentication, like probably you should just put it in the auth part. But I think I get what you're saying now.
Thank you. Now, since he's clearly said authentication here, as we can all see it, then let us do what we have to do. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not cheating. I'm not giving you a school figure. You're supposed to figure this out. So let's figure it out. I hope we don't have any hands up. I'm about to run now. Gloria. Okay, ask your question.
Okay, my question is on this error section. Now, since we've already explained the types of error they are likely going to encounter, now are we going to have a separate section on error handling? Like, okay, this is the error that I got. How can I resolve it?
Now that's a question. So that's called the troubleshooting page, right? Most API documents don't have troubleshooting pages, right? However, it is an essential page. Do you understand? So because your errors and authentication page most times is going to look as brief as this, just this thing here. But then troubleshooting now, it's actually very important. So if you know how to troubleshoot the error for the person, right, you can leave it there. However, if you have a description that says 21422, this phone number is unavailable, I think the description is clear to tell you that I should put an available phone number or try a number that's available, right? 21612, Twilio cannot route to this number, then it means you should just get a new number. Do you understand? So most times when you have this static code, right, the descriptions itself are just enough for you to figure out what to do. But in cases where they are more complex than that, then you can have a troubleshooting page. So please go on. Sorry.
Okay, since this table now it is having just two columns, like we're having the code and the description. Now, can I include another column beside it? Then it will be like the solution. Okay, this means you have the number is not available. Okay, in the solution, like in the next column, which is the solution, then I'll explain that. Okay, oh, you have to get an available phone number. Like, is it proper to do it that way too?
You like
Like
to
it will still
explain?
be in table.
Wait first. If you have number that is unavailable, is it not logical to get an available number? Why are you going to explicitly explain? It's
Okay,
logical.
so okay.
Yeah. So tell me about your hand. You had your hand
Please.
up.
Sorry, I have something to say because one of the things Gloria is saying is very valid. Even though you can say the phone number is unavailable, right? I feel like should be there. One of the reasons is because I can't remember who asked the question on Discord. I think it was Ikma, where she was saying that the it was saying unavailable, invalid institution ID. Now, for me myself to even find a valid institution ID, it wasn't on that documentation at all. It was in a separate link on it. I had to start googling and searching for okay how to get a valid institution ID for to get this token and all of that. So I feel like that's why the solution is important than just because if not you start searching all over again and you won't find exactly where the issue is. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I do get you. Now, look at the example that Gloria gave. Why I said that explanation, she just went to explain. She said, let's say we have this number is unavailable. Then the solution was get an available number. If you're going to do this, right, this phone number is unavailable, full stop. You can add two examples of numbers you can try here. Have you given them, have you helped them? I think you have, right? So that is well enough to help them move on. Now, I said in complex situations where you have this to solve this error, you got to go through steps. Then you create a page for troubleshooting. But if what they have to do is change the value or something, you can indicate it here. This phone number is unavailable. Full stop. Try this, or you understand? Full stop. Continue. Try this or this. Straight to the point. Accurate problem solution. Do you get?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Unless it requires you to now go step by step, then you're creating a new page. If not, you fire down. Oh, clear. All right. I think this is my time to run. Thank you everyone. I hope we learned something, and moving forward, I hope we do better. I'm trying to check if Sir Wisdom is on this call. Yes, Sir Wisdom. I think I'm done, and hand over to you. Thank you guys. Thank you.
And you're about to do something unplayed. You're not done.
Richard, I'm done. I'm not
No, no.
I understand. I real life,
You're
Richard,
not
don't hold
done.
my shit. You see, I'm not done. Richard, Richard, ask a question. I don't know if I can help you on play because you're still working on that, but ask. Let's see.
No, me, I don't have question. No. Someone asked a question. We're about to do something. So just continue. Continue what you're about to do before the last question distracted you.
Was I about to do something unplayed? I don't think so. Was I?
It was you were unplayed. You were on the authentication page of played save already. Yeah, I
Eh,
think
I
you were
was
in
about
some.
to do anything. No, I know they do anything. I'm not doing anything, my brother. We're done.
Ah,
We're
how
done.
about man now?
Yeah, I'm not done. I'm not on my shit too. Let me small thing. All right, we're good. So Wisdom, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. And yeah.
All right. Thank you, Prince, for this session. You said you will not teach, but somehow, teaching came inside. All right, guys. So I think we don't have any questions again, right? We're good to go. Hey. Question.
Okay. One thing I noticed about this API documentation is that most of them they hardly talk about what the API is. For instance, the played API now it is for like financial transactions and all, but they did not include it in the API documentation. They only go straight to the point that okay, this API is REST API, it does this, but they did not explain like the use cases. So I'm now wondering if there is a need to do that, or we should just go straight to the point.
All right, Prince. Today is your day, so I won't community.
You're right. You're right. Oh wait, I'm still sharing my screen now. Okay. Anyways, I was saying, let me start sharing my screen first. I was saying, when you're trying to document or replicate an API like this, right? It's in your job to know the right thing to do. You're actually right that they don't talk about stuff like that. They just go straight to the point and start talking like you're supposed to know. Most times you're supposed to know, because what are you doing if you don't? What are you doing there if you don't know what the API is? However, it's not bad to give one paragraph to explain what the API is and what it's used for, right? And that is what the overview page is for. So I hope you're clear. So you're not in the wrong if you actually do that for your API. So yeah, you're not wrong. So do the right thing. Don't follow what they have. Most times what they have is bad.
All right. Thank you, Prince, for that. That was just the perfect answer. So today is Prince's Day. I will not come and take over today at all. So I won't answer anything. Any question you direct to me, I will direct it to Prince. So, and thank you, Prince. You did a very, very good job. I think everybody now, because of the session was long today, and I think it covered a lot of ground. So, is there any need for us to have our call tomorrow? Because of what Benson talked about. So, Benson, are you clear now? And you guys didn't hear me because.
Yeah, sure, I'm clear.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, you're clear. Oh, praise the Lord. That's good.
I'm not clear. I'm not clear, but
You're not clear
but
how?
but there's somebody that will clear me later to understand it.
I have
Again,
something
what?
to say.
Thank you.
Which
I
are
have
you not?
something.
Okay.
I feel like okay, now that Prince has explained and then everybody's going to go back and try it out. We should still have the meeting on Tuesday evening. So at least we still have clarity for what we are doing.
Okay. All right, so we'll have I'll check my calendar on Tuesday. Yeah, or probably maybe Prince will still take up the session on Tuesday too. So it's just like what I don't want is I don't know if you guys back then when we enter moto from maybe from Uri or something to Port Harcourt, if you get to Uri, the driver will come down and that driver that carry us. The one that was driving from Uri to Aba was we enjoyed this other one that picked us from Aba to Port Harcourt will be driving anyhow. I don't want any kind of mixture on this journey you guys have entered right now. So Prince will take you guys on Tuesday. So maybe not repeating everything entirely, just like a brush up. And if you have any question, you ask. So just to clear you guys. Then after Tuesday, we'll probably have our call on Saturday. Then Saturday, I think that will be it. We'll talk about so you have this week to do played, continue the played, and submit on Sunday. Then on Saturday is just Tuesday and Saturday is for any other issues to help you guys clear it out. Then I think we've taken a lot of time. I think given grace so many times. So we are jumping straight up to your capstone project. So talk about your capstone on this coming Saturday. Talk about your capstone projects and capstone projects. I think you have capstone project will probably has over is it 40 to 50 endpoints. So that is a lot, like a lot. So you're submitting that January. You're submitting that January 2nd week. So take your time, do your stuff, enjoy your Christmas, comment your Christmas.
So did you just say enjoy Christmas?
Yes, even if you can send us virtual rides, that would be cool because we try for you guys, giving you something to keep you busy. Okay, for the Muslims here don't have issues during the Christmas period because they'll just do their thing.
And please, how will we jump to capstone project so we never do API spec? Because you said that I should remind you about API spec, Prince. I never forget. So
Okay, yeah, the API spec. Yeah, you guys need to do your capstone first. We'll have a different session for that one because the API spec, I think, was it the second week assignment that we looked at it and said it's going to be difficult for you guys. So when you're done with your capstone, at least that would probably be so that API spec more like a session we'll have with everyone and a recorded session to show you how to document. And with the tool we have, show you how to do that from Postman, convert to this, and we use at least maybe like 5 endpoints to do that. So you convert, put it on Postman, document on Postman, convert. Then you need to add a response. We'll show you how to add a response. So that would probably cover like a 2-hour class. We'll do them cover that. So that's not a problem. We still have it in our backlog. So, but your capstone is what you need to finish up. So then we'll have like a survey form on Saturday for you guys to fill. Tell us how bad program is, or how good the program is, or how bad our classes are, or how bad the mentors are. So just give us a feedback, like what Samuel gave us earlier today. So for me, I'll say be real, be real, be honest, because that would help us and also that would help you. All right. So do you have any
and
other questions?
yeah, we have not done the Mitlify did the color now. Mitlify. Because we said that with this course, I'm going to do TVM. Oh God, is it TV platform?
Yeah.
Say Readme,
Yes, yes.
Postman, and Mitlify.
Okay. Yeah. So you have, like I said, you guys have eaten a lot of time. So we gave a lot of grace and grace and grace. So the grace chopped off one of them. Netlify. Let me see. Let me check the assignment. The capstone. Wait. This Postman talks. So, okay. I think yeah. So so I think next week we will have the next week, yeah, next week, yeah. So next week Saturday we're gonna have a different session. So that session we cover what you just talked about. So Prince will take on that session. So he will cover up how to use our platform, the project we created to convert from Postman to OpenAPI spec, because your capstone project is you're using Postman, then you will convert your Postman collection to an OpenAPI spec file, then you will use that on Mentlify. So your capstone project is a huge one. So next week class is very, 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 very important. So if you miss that, that's on you. So thank you for that. I just looked at that. I go to document stuff. I just looked at the curriculum and I see that we need to do that. So next week we are covering the Open API spec class. Then that is what you will use. So you're using Postman to document, add everything you need to add, then convert a collection to open API spec file, and also make sure you also test to be sure everything is working fine, and make sure, I don't know if Postman would document I think some other stuff. So we'll check on the classes to make sure it covers. So whatever Postman misses, you will be the one to manually add that. So second week of January is when you submit your assignment. So take your time during the Xmas so that you guys will be thinking about us when you're eating your rice. Hi, Shitu.
Yes, sir. So I want to like ask a question. Like the assignments now, I also like just went through it. The fifth and the last one and the one before the last, like he said, the last one is supposed to be create a section on authentication for the played API, and actually the one that that we're supposed to do this week just says document the first 20 endpoints. So I'm not thinking, are we just like just do endpoints, no introduction, no authentication? Because the last one is not supposed to be for create a section on authentication. Like,
yeah, no, I understand. I understand. If you look at the assignment again now, there is nothing like that there.
Okay.
So I will change that now. There is nothing like that. So that's open. So you have an open API spec class is coming Saturday. So that will be taken by Prince. He will take you guys on that one. So you make sure you pay attention. Very, very important. So it's not that difficult. It's not that easy, but if you learn it, you are, I think, let me put all the API documentation writers in the world. You're probably in the first, I'll probably call it first 10, because not everybody knows about OpenAPI spec file, and not everybody is ready to learn it because it's tricky, very, very tricky. It can be tricky because it works with, let's call it indentation or indentation. So spaces, when you make one mistake, most especially in your YAML file, that is problem. Maybe you're using YAML file or JSON file, whatever, but you just make one mistake, one space mistake, that's it. So you start looking for how to get it right. If you want to go back twice, it shows the error. You go back once, it works, and it shows the error. So the other one, like, it will make you go crazy sometimes. So you get to learn that. So make sure you join that class. Don't miss that class for anything. Let me talk like church people. Make sure you don't miss it for anything. All right. So do you have any other question? Not from Gloria this time around. Gloria, I don't know.
Yeah.
Where's Josh?
So
Josh.
So it's just a simple. No, it's not part of the DOS. He said if you are doing API spec the next week, sir. The Metlify is it also next week, or so we want to cancel that one out?
Okay. I said you would use the Mentlify. So next week, like I said, it's a class that will cover up all that. Okay. Prince will teach you guys how to use our platform, the project you built, how to use that, how to document on Postman, convert your Postman collection, how to export your Postman collection, convert your Postman collection to an OpenHTTP file. Then also show you how to import that on Mentify. So with that, you can go back and watch the video when you're doing your assignment. Is that clear?
Yes, sir, it's clear. No question further except on Tuesday again.
Wait, you still want to reserve questions till Tuesday, this guy?
So go and rest. So you're tired, so don't mind.
You're booking questions ahead. People are booking flight. You're booking questions. Okay, guys. So I think we're all happy, and we are ready to work on this next this week's questions, right? Sorry, assignment. Everything is clear till Tuesday. All right. Okay, so as I said, the program is coming to an end, and during I think first week of December, we are open to answer any questions, help out, but most especially, everything should be done between the mentees, yourself, just like the way you've been doing it, or will be available to help yourself. So there are some gigs you see online, it's just to convert to OpenAV spec file. You probably get paid just to do that. Some, it's okay, convert and use this platform. And again, if you're able to do this project, it's something that will stand there at an interview. So you're like, okay, I can do this, I've done this, and that would make you much better than other candidates. Yeah, hi, Basi. Hi, Basi. Basi, if you're speaking, you're mute. Okay, so I think so any other question from anyone?
Mistake.
Okay, I think
So the record will be this evening, right? Sorry to butt in like that. The record we are going to receive it this evening.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Let me rewatch it. At least the part I was not around, and I'll save my questions for the next one.
Oh, okay. More questions. That's good. Udoka, is your mic better now? Okay, Edun, are you good to go? Yeah, so that should be January. We'll have a session. We'll talk about, I think, is it ending of this month or something? We'll be having a session with the whole community. More like everybody will talk about how to arrange your LinkedIn, how to get gigs, get set to cover up other parts, platforms to use, how to present yourself, and more. I think that's 29th of this month or something. I'll check with the social media manager to know when we'll do that. Then we'll talk on that one. But you guys are a step ahead of a lot of people because you already have API docs. Then next year we'll talk about developer docs. We've not planned anything, but if you guys are available for that, that would be cool. We don't even know if that will be next year, December, maybe next year, August. We don't have a date, but we know that would happen next year. So once again, thank you guys. And please, if we send the form, I would like you guys, sorry, give me 1 minute to take a screenshot. So if we share the slides, the form, sorry. So we share the form, what is the survey form? Please, I would like you guys to be as honest as possible. Okay, not to be rude in any way, but be as polite as possible and tell us areas we need to improve on, things we need to do better, because at the end of the day, it's going to better the community and better the next set. And also tell us if the money we collect about the program is too small. We should increase it to 200K. That would be also fine. We're open to listen. But at the end of the day, the money is still going back to people who are not even us. So I don't think we've taken any money from this program. It still goes back to you guys. So if you pay any amount big, just work hard to get something. We're not taking anything. So yeah, so main essence why we are doing this is because yes, we've done this in the past. We've worked on projects, we've made some cash from it, and it's just we giving back to the community. All right, so any question? Is this Richard different from the other Richard I'm seeing here, or is the same Richard different?
It's the same Richard. I just logged on my laptop.
Oh, okay. All right, so any question for Prince? Or say good night? Wow, it's like 2 hours. That's cool. All right, let me what did they call it? Let me stop the recording. All right, so do we have any question before we say good night?
No question.